to all our listeners tuning in from around the world. This is Michelle Lopez, a paramedic from Mexico, and today we're thrilled to kick off our news segment, our second episode of the news segment, MEDUCAST Inside Global Emergencies. We have the distinct honor of engaging in a conversation with an extraordinary individual. Please welcome Valentin Labarbe or Valentin Labarbe. It's a pleasure to have you here with us. Thank you for joining MEDUCAST Inside Global Emergencies. Could you please present yourself so all our audience meet you, please?
Sure. Thank you, Michelle. I'm very honored to be here. Hello, everyone. I'm Valentin. I'm an emergency physician in France. I work now as a firefighter, medical physician, and in the emergency department where I'm specialized in trauma care, and I'm also a medical director of Form Life Support, which is our private company for medical training, and this is how I met Michelle and Amanda earlier in the National EMS Congress in Orlando last year.
Thank you so much, Valentin. And well, let's dive into this critical discussion and let's know about the French healthcare system. Right now, we have the first question. And could you please tell us how does the French healthcare system is organized, please?
Sure. There is what happens to the patient in town. In town means outside of hospital. And there is what happens inside the hospital. So basically, people go to their general practitioner, and he or she can send them to specific physicians. Or in the case of an emergency, people can call the SAMU, dial the 15 on their telephone, and SAMU will give them an answer. And sometimes SAMU will advise them to go to the hospital. And when going to the hospital, there are two main possibilities. People can go to the public hospital, which can be a small hospital, like medical center, community center, or bigger hospitals, as big as the university hospitals. And there are also private hospitals that we call clinics, and those work quite the same as public hospitals, except they're usually a little bit smaller. And the main difference will be that when going to a public hospital, you will never have to pay the bill upfront or at discharge, but you might get the bill at home when you're back home if there's a problem with your administrative paperwork. Whereas in the private hospital, the clinics, they will most of the time charge you with something at discharge if your insurance company is not paying for you.
Okay, thank you. That's a perfect explanation and easily to understand for us that are far away from that kind of system and that doesn't have the honor to experience actually the treatment and the way that you work in there. So basically we have the first big difference from, at least from us here in Mexico, it's that you will receive all the attention and they will bill you to your home after you receive the treatment or whatever you will need it in the public ones, right?
Yes.
Here in Mexico, just to letting you know a little bit, the public ones normally we have two kind of public ones. The first one is like the social security from the employees and all the people who works and everything, and the other one is for the ones that doesn't have any kind of insurance or or any kind of social security. So, but in both you pay. If you don't have the insurance, then in both you pay, and you need to pay in that in the meantime that you are receiving the treatment or that you are in the hospital. And in the private ones, well, you need to pay as soon as you get in there, and they will start with the treatment. If it's not a life-threatening decision or treatment, then they you need to pay before you receive the treatment. If it's not a life-threatening in any of the circumstances. If it's a life-threatening treatment, then they start doing everything, and then they try to figure out how we'll manage about all the payments and everything else. Okay.
Okay. Yes, in the private hospitals that we call clinics, I say you have to pay upfront, but you can pay at the end of the stay. At discharge, you can pay, but they usually charge you before you're back home.
Oh, okay.
And for the public hospitals, everybody goes to the same hospital. There are not public hospitals for low income or public hospitals for the one wealthier. It's all the same.
Oh, okay. That's great to know, and that I think that it's better, so the people doesn't. It's better even for the ones that are new in the town, or they are moving to live in there, so they don't have like, where do I go or where do I treat myself when I have something for the needed, or for a hospital. We were talking before we started recording about the SAMU, and that, which is it's like the 911 from America. The SAMU 15, it's in there. What do people can expect when they call the SAMU 15, and to whom they will speak?
Okay, that's a vast question. First, the global tendency in France is to merge the means and share the means between the fire department and the SAMU 15, which means that whenever you call an emergency number regarding health, which are the 15, you dial 15 on your telephone, or you dial 18 on the telephone for the firefighters, or you dial the 112 to have the European emergency call system. Most of the time, you will end up in the very same room, whatever the number you dial. And in this room, you will first talk to a receptionist that will ask you your name and address, phone number, and will try to find your medical issue. And with those information, he or she will decide what is your level of severity. And from this level of severity, it will transfer you to the waiting room of the physician, and it can be either a general practitioner if it's mild severity, or an emergency physician. And another thing that's quite specific, I think, from France, I think receptionists in most of the countries, they do all the work, and there is seldom a call to a physician. And for us, every call goes to a physician, unless the person on the phone hangs up. But basically, every call must go to the physician. Still, the receptionist can have some actions before the patient is has even talked to the physician. The receptionist can send means at the place where the attendant is calling. Even the most powerful mean we have, which is the SMUR, the medical service of emergency and critical care, which means that globally the whole emergency room comes to your place.
Okay.
And this can be sent right away by the receptionist in case of a cardiac arrest, for example.
Okay.
If you call on the phone, you have the receptionist and you say, I'm calling for a cardiac arrest. He will take your name and address and send the smear right away if there's one available.
Okay.
And they can also provide counsel for CPR, for example, or airway management, basic airway management. And they can do this by the meantime while you're waiting for the physician to answer the phone. And then there will be a physician answering the phone eventually, and he will ask you about your situation and take a decision with those informations. And this decision can be medical advice, which is take this medication you have at home, or go to the next pharmacy, and I'll send them an email and with a prescription that you can get there. It can be wait until tomorrow and go to your general practitioner. They can also advise you to take your own car and go to the emergency room if it sounds realistic. They can send you an ambulance at home in private places, and they would send you the firefighters. Firefighters here, they do, of course, the fire. They deal with fire, but they also deal a lot with medical issues. They are a first rescue force that's quite how should I say this? That's quite important. I mean, whenever the problem occurs in a public place, the SAMU would send you the firefighters and not an ambulance. And if you are in critical condition and there is no ambulance available, even though you're at home, the SAMU will send you the firefighters.
Okay.
So the first option would be medical advice, then send you ambulance or firefighters, or send you a medical team, which can be made of an EMT and a nurse, or an EMT, a nurse, and a physician, which is the smear.
Okay. Okay. Well,
and I think that's about it.
Okay, well, that's great. Here in Mexico, at least not all the ambulance services has the complete team, as you're explaining to us about the smear. I had the honor of work in one of the services that has that kind of system, and in Puebla, in Mexico, and it's a public one, but it has it's almost the same organization that you are talking to us. And well, I'm a little bit of familiar with the organization, but thank you so much for sharing this with us and to all our audience. I know that there's a lot of new healthcare providers or students that are hearing us, so I think that this will be great to them to hear. Valentin, we were talking in the first question about the insurances, security, and everything, insurance, social security, and everything. So, what about the cover for the patients? How does the insurance or social security works there?
Okay, this was the pride of French people for a long time. I hope it can still be for some time still. Everybody in France is allowed free care when it's, standard care, and when it's justified. Nobody has to pay anything. I mean, we have the social security file that allows everyone 66% of the bill to be paid by the society and not by the individual. Okay, this part you'll never have to pay. If you're a stranger and you come to France, one of the first things you should do is have a social worker help you get the social security number, because this definitely reduces the amount of fees you'll have to pay for medical care. The remaining 33%, they can be paid either by private insurance, which will allow you to have better compensation for the non-standard care. I mean, glasses, tooth work, dentistry, aesthetic works, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And some of them would pay for a bigger room or that kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them even pay for extra fees some physicians charge.
Okay.
And for those who don't have the means to pay a private insurance company, for people with low income, we have what we call CMU, which is globally the universal cover, which pays the remaining 33% for the standard care and justified care for people with low income. So it's basically a bit of a administration work to get those, but almost everyone with low income is allowed to have it. So I'm telling you, it's our pride, and it should be.
Yeah, now I realize why normally the people from France and Europe in general gets mad when we talk about prices and everything in the hospital that I work. Actually, it's I think that it's a huge step from all the people who is involved in that to make that the healthcare system functions like that, that the people doesn't have to pay or doesn't have to pay the total of the bill. So I think that at least when we are talking in about health manners, we need to try to copy that way or copy that system, because it will be great for a lot of people for too many reasons. At least here in Mexico.
Yes, but the thing is that this universal cover, it comes from taxes. So people will have to accept paying taxes for this. But I think it's what taxes are made for. It's to have the system working globally. That's the point of view.
Yeah, sure. Well, and now talking about the other part of the healthcare system, the healthcare providers, what is the basic training that a healthcare provider needs in order to be part of the SAMU?
SAMU is the place where we centralize the calls from outside. So I will answer this question to tell you about the people working in the SAMU, but also for the people who work pre-hospital, because they don't work inside the SAMU, but they are the effectors, the people that the SAMU send to the patients. Let's do it chronologically. First person you will have on the phone. The first person you have on the phone would be the receptionist, and the receptionists, they have a scholarship to be prepared to receive calls from people in distress, and this is a big part of their scholarship. And they have also 3 days training for critical care and emergency procedures, which is quite standard and global, like CPR, airway management, seizure, and other dizziness. It's only 3 days, but it allows them to give give advice for the life-threatening matters. You will then have the ambulancier. Ambulanciers would be a bit different from the paramedics you have, because it's 3 months only scholarship for ambulancier in France, and it allows them to work by a pair of 2 on an ambulance, they can also have a 3 weeks scholarship to become ambulancier for the SMUR, which is, you know, the full team, complete team with a physician and nurse, but there aren't so many of them. I mean, here in Reunion Island, for example, we are almost 1 billion person, and we have 6 units of SMUR working 24/7. So this means not so many ambulanciers for this particular job. We do not have so far the equivalent of a paramedic, but I hope I'll have a minute to say a word about this later, because this is a project we would like to carry in France to get the example from the other countries. Nurses will have a 3 years scholarship, doctors a few years also. So that's basically the whole team.
Okay, wow. Well, there's a difference between one and the other, but I think that the way they combine themselves and their work, it's the best way to for deliver the treatment for the patients and the care for the patients. So I uh, I think I know that it sounds like a short time, but of training, but it will be it's working in that way.
Yes, I think it is. I forgot to mention the firefighters, because since they have a lot of
Mhm.
rescuing to do, they have also an initial training, but it's on the under the responsibility of every department, and I mean department, I mean province. You know,
Okay.
for Reunion Island is just responsible for the training of all the firefighters in Reunion. So it's not. I mean, there's a law. There's something that they must need to know, but it's not a matter of a number of days and everything.
Okay.
And they
Well,
have a very good continuous training.
oh
Sorry.
yeah, that's don't worry. That's the best thing to do the continuous training. Actually, this podcast, the original idea emerged to provide a way to keep listening, keep the education from the ones who are doing maybe something like work, driving, cleaning their houses or something, so they can still learning from everywhere and everyone. So that's perfect. And finally, Valentin, could you please tell us the process from the healthcare provider to provide the treatment there? I mean that, is there medical instructions on the phone? Do they talk by radio to communicate to the hospitals which kind of patient they are taking to there, or how does it work?
Okay. The big brother of all of this is the SAMU. He gets all the information and he dispatches, and then he fetches the information to the receiving hospital. So in France, ambulanciers have little, if no, prescription responsibility. They can give oxygen, but only on medical prescription, if not life-threatening. I mean, and for firefighters, it's almost the same. It's a little bit changing with the mattress law that was voted in 2021, which will allow firefighters to perform EKGs and blood sugar and that kind of thing, but they will so far not be allowed to deliver medications.
Okay.
Even nurses working pre-hospital, they work on procedures, which globally works as if it was an anticipated prescription. So French people still think that doctors only have must have the lead and the steer wheel. So
Okay.
so far it doesn't change it. That's what I was prompting earlier. I think that maybe we should inspire from paramedics who can do a lot on pre-hospital before having a medical prescription, like for airway management, for example, which is a real problem when you receive someone who has not an airway management properly. So in Form Life, we think that the objective would be that ambulancier in France would have something like an equivalent diploma for being paramedic elsewhere, and this would require that they have BLS, PHTLS, maybe ACLS, and everything. So they have the same training as elsewhere, and maybe have things change a little bit for the best in France and maybe somewhere else as well, and give them the mobility that everyone wants to have.
Yeah,
And
that would be great.
and as the way it's dispatched, we have basically a lot of phone work with the SAMU, but there's also radio work on different frequencies between firefighters from a place and from another.
Okay.
And basically ambulancier work on the phone only. And firefighters work both on radio or on the phone, depending on the amount of information they have to transfer.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's great. That's amazing, and I think that is one of the keys to make a really multidisciplinary teamwork. So the hospital and the pre-hospital areas can treat the patient as just one area and not two different areas. That we know that there are two different areas and they're a little bit different from one from another, but at the end everything goes for the well of the patient. So if they keep in communication and start talking about the patient that they are taking to the hospital or transferred to another hospital, that would be that would make a very big difference from the treatment of the patient. Valentin, would you like to share any final thoughts before we conclude this episode?
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the most important things for us medical practitioners is that we must always be convinced that there is place for improvement and that what we do is not perfect, and we have to keep looking at what we do, analyzing it, assessing, asking for peer revision, asking for criticize, because it's not always easy, but it's always for the best. So we try to remain open for critics.
Okay.
Maybe some ideas were not clear on what I said. When I said that we would like to have the paramedics, like the ambulancier in France, have the same training as paramedics. Us, Form Life, we are not university. We are a private company, so we can only advise and offer to do things, but we have no power to change any of those things. I don't want it to sound too I mean, I only ask, I only offer. I'm not commending anything.
Yeah, don't worry. I didn't perceive it in that way, but thank you for making it clear for all our audience and all our international listeners, so they can have the correct idea, the clear idea about what are you doing in here. And well, it has been an absolute honor to have you as our distinguished guest in this second episode of the new segment, and to share insights about medicine with you and your global and our global audience. We hope that this information reaches far and wide and preparing for more professionals for the challenges ahead. Valentin, sending warm greetings from Mexico. We wish you, those of you finish your shifts a well-deserved rest, and for those just starting, may it be a smooth and enjoyable shift. And see you until next time.
Bye, Michelle. Thank you.